Okay, we want to cover the homework that you had in chapters 14 and 15, which are the finance chapters, and basically math of mortgages. So on the homework section, number 34 here, the first one, it says Morta is purchasing a home for $450,000 and obtaining the 90% loan to value, 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 6% interest to accomplish the purchase. The loan amortizes at 6.00. Remember, that's dollars, so that's $6 per thousand. That's a payment per thousand on the principal and interest. Based on this information, what's the remaining balance in the loan after 2 monthly payments? So, give myself some room here. On this kind of a question, whenever they want to know the balance after 1, 2, whatever number of monthly payments, the first thing we need to know is, number one, how much are we borrowing? And in this case, they told us that we're purchasing a home for $450,000 and we're getting a 90% loan to value loan. So we can take those two numbers, $450,000 purchase times 90% loan to value, and we end up with a $405,000 loan amount. Okay, so we've taken care of the loan amount at least. Now we need to know what the monthly payment is on this thing. Well, they didn't give us the monthly payment, but they did give us an amortization schedule. The loan amortizes at 6.00. So that's $6 per thousand. So that payment of $6 per thousand is principal and interest. Principal and interest payment of $6 per thousand, PI, okay, times the number of thousands that we borrow. Well, if we go over here and we look at our loan amount, we borrowed $450,000 total. $405,000 total. And if we divide that by 1,000, that tells us that we borrowed 405 sort of units or stacks of $1,000. And so that's what we want to multiply over here. So $6 per thousand times 405, which comes from the loan amount, is $2,430 per month for a PI payment. So now a question becomes, we've got a $405,000 loan and we've got a $2,430 a month payment. How much is the balance on that loan after we make that payment? So we've got a loan amount, we've got a payment amount, and they want to know what the balance is after we make that payment. So we should be okay in calculating that. So step one is to start to break down this payment. We talk about the fact that when we have payments, whether it's a PI payment or a PITI payment, we pay them in reverse. So we would pay the insurance first. Well, we don't have insurance this time, so we're going to get rid of that. Then we'd pay the taxes. Well, they didn't give us any taxes to deal with, so we would get rid of that. That leaves us with the interest piece. The interest piece is the next thing that we need to take away from that $2,430 payment. So here's what we know about this loan. We know it's for $405,000. And we also know that it's at 6% interest. So we can calculate how much of that payment is interest. So times 6%, that will help us calculate our annual interest. That is $24,300 annual interest. And of course, that's a monthly payment we're dealing with, so let's divide that by 12. That equals $2,025 per month in interest. Now, here's what we know about the payment. In total, go back up to it, it's $2,430. So we got a $2,430 monthly PI payment, and we're paying $2,025 of that toward interest. So we should be able to come up with how much we pay toward principal, and that is $405 going toward the principal balance, at least in month 1. They wanted to know 2 monthly payments. Well, that's after month 1. So month number 1 is going to be a loan balance of $405,000 minus $405 going toward the principal, equals $404,595. Well, we're going to do a second payment. On that second payment, here's what we know. The PI payment is still $2,430. But we also know our interest is going to be different this time around. When we calculate the interest this time around, we're starting at a different amount. We're starting at $404,595 amount times the 6% annual interest rate. That is $24,275.70 annually. And if we divide that by 12, we get $2,022.98 per month. And if we bring that back up here, we can subtract it out of our monthly PI payment. So that's $2,022.98. Sorry about that. Minus 2430. All right, and that tells us we have $407.03 or 2 cents, depending on whichever you have, going toward the principal. So, to get our principal balance again, we're going to go back to our balance after month 1. So this is payment number 2. We started at $404,595, and we are subtracting $407.02. And that gives us a balance after 2 payments of $404,187 and about 98 cents. There's your balance after 2 payments. Number 35 says Jocelyn's new home was purchased utilizing a $325,000 15-year fixed rate note at 4.5% annual interest. They give us a monthly PI/TI payment. Well, let's jump to the question. It says, based on this information, what would the balance be on Jocelyn's mortgage after her first 3 payments? So obviously, we're going to need a lot of room to work here because we got a question that requires a lot of work. All right. So the first thing we need to do, we need to narrow down that monthly PI/TI payment. PI/TI. Well, we need to get rid of some pieces, because that's $2,983. Well, we said the first thing we pay is the insurance, because we want to pay them in reverse. So the insurance we know is this. It's $1,200 per year divided by 12 months. That equals $1,000 a month in insurance. So we can subtract that $1,000 a month from our total payment. Excuse me, I'm Warren. It's $100 a month. That's what happens when you don't use a calculator. I was looking at that, I was like, no way. $100 a month in insurance costs. All right, so we subtract the $100 for insurance. Now, we also have the taxes which need to be paid. The taxes are $4,800 a year divided by 12 months, and that equals $400 a month in taxes. So minus $400 for property taxes. So that takes care of the insurance, that takes care of the property taxes. Now we need to know the interest piece. Now keep in mind, for monthly payments, the interest, the insurance and the taxes are not going to change. The interest and principal will. So you could go ahead if you wanted to and just say this is $29.83 and go ahead and subtract out $100 insurance and $400 tax. And that's $24.83 for just principal and interest. So that might help simplify it as we do 3 payments. So for payment number 1, what's our loan starting balance? We got a $325,000 loan at 4.5% interest. Okay, so $325,000 times 4.5% interest it's $14,625 per year divided by 12 equals $1,218.75 per month. And that's for payment number 1. So payment number 1 looks like this. We got $24.83 in PI minus $1,218.75 in interest. That means we're paying off $1,264.25. 1,200, let me rewrite that so you can read it. $1,264.25 is how much we're paying off in month 1. So if we go back and look at our actual loan balance, it's going to be $325,000 minus $1,264.25, and that's $323, $735.75. And that's after 1 payment. They want 2, so we're going to restart the whole process over again. So on payment number 2, we start with $323, $735.75 times our same interest rate of 4.5%. And that's $14,568 and about 11 cents. And remember, if you're a penny or so off, it's fine. And we want to divide that by 12 to get to a monthly, and that equals $1,214 and a penny, $1214.01. That's going toward interest in payment number 2. So we do the same thing. Our payment is still $24.83 a month, still, minus the $1,214.01, and that's going to give us, I'm sorry, I don't know why this microphone is making so much noise. That's going to give us $1,268.99 for a loan, for the amount going toward principal. And then our loan balance is going to be the balance here, this number, so 323 $735.75 minus $1268.99. And that looks like to me, I typed it in wrong. 323, 735 and 75 cents minus 1268 and 99 cents. All right, 322,466 and 76 cents. And that is, of course, payment number 2. But they want a total of 3 payments, so that's going to be our starting point for payment number 3. 322,466 and 76 cents times 4.5% interest equals 14,511. Even. That's annual, so we're going to divide it by 12. And that is $1,209.25 per year. We go back and do the same thing we've done before. Our payment still remains $24.83 total. So we've got a $24.83 PI payment minus $1209.25 that we're paying in interest. And that is $1,273.74 that is going toward principal. And so finally, we can take our loan balance after 2 payments, which is $322,466 and 76 cents. And we can take off our principal of $1,273.74 and our loan balance Sorry, my calculator's having a bad day with button presses. 1273 and 74 cents. That is $321,193.02. And that is the balance after 3 payments have been made. Now, one thing you should notice, if we've done this correctly, we should be able to look back up and see that of that $24.83, a little bit less was going toward interest and a little bit more toward principal. So let's look at our principal. In month 1, we had $12.64 in principal. In month 2, we had $12.68 in principal. In month 3, we're wrong. Yes, excuse me. Sorry, someone asking me a question. In month 3, we had $1,273.74 in principal. So we went from $12.64 to $12.68 to $12.73. I apologize, I was interrupted there. So our principal went up every month, which means our interest went down every month, which is exactly what we should expect to see. Right, so $321,193.02. Number 36, Tyler is considering whether he should take a 30-year mortgage loan at 5% interest that amortizes at 5.36 or a 15-year note at 4.5% interest that amortizes at 7.64. What would be the difference in the interest paid over the life of these 2 loans if Tyler were to borrow $175,000? So this is essentially 2 questions in one. They want to know how much interest is paid over the life of a loan, but they want us to do it twice with 2 different loans. So let's look at the first one. Let's look at the 15-year, the 30-year note. That's the one they gave us first. So we'll look at the 30-year mortgage at 5% interest that amortizes at 5.36. And we know he's borrowing $175,000. So we know that we're paying $5.36 for every $1,000 we borrow. and we're borrowing $175,000. Just leave the thousand part off. That's the same thing as saying 175,000 divided by 1,000, because this is a payment for every $1,000 borrowed. So that's what we multiply by. So 536 times 175, our payment is $938, and that's principal and interest for that loan. And we're making that payment 12 months a year for 30 years. So 938 times 12 times 30 is $337,680 in principal and interest over the life of the loan. Well, if we want to know just the interest, we would take the 337,680 PI and subtract out the principal part, which was $175,000. That's how much we borrowed. So we have interest of $162,680 if we do the 30-year note. If we do that 30-year note, we got interest of $162,680. So let's look at the 15-year note. On the 15-year note, here's what they've told us. On the 15-year note, we know that we've got a 15-year 4.5% interest that amortizes at $764. And of course, we know we still borrowed the same amount of money, which is $175,000. So for that one, we're going to do the same exact steps we just did, just for the different note. It amortizes at $764, so that's $764 per thousand times still $175, because we're still borrowing $175,000, and that is $1,337 a month PI, and that makes sense. A 15-year note payment should be more than a 30-year note payment. It should be substantially more, because you're paying it off in half the time. And we're making that payment 12 months a year times 15 years in this case. And that is 1337 times 12 times 15. It's 240,000. Don't know why that. $240,660 in principal and interest. And if we do the same thing we did earlier, which is to say the total amount paid in, $240,660 PI, minus the amount of that that's principal, which was $175,000. That gives us $65,660 in interest over the life of that loan. And now the question wants us to go back and look at the difference between the interest paid over the two loans. Well, in loan one, it was $162,680. And in loan two, so in the 30 years, $162,680. And in the second loan, the 15-year, it was $65,660. So to get the difference between those two, we're just going to subtract, and we get a difference in interest over the life of the two loans of $97,020. So a way to explain that to a client is you would save $97,020 in interest by doing the 15-year note versus the 30-year note, if you were trying to explain that to a client. Okay, number 37. It says Casey makes her monthly mortgage payment of $1,285 on August 1st. She has a 30-year fixed rate mortgage note issued at 4% annual interest, and this payment includes $954 in interest. Based on this information, what is the outstanding mortgage balance on the loan? So if you go back and think about our T-bar formula for interest, it looks like this. And I know sometimes we don't always write the T-bar for this, but we probably should. So when we talk about interest, we talk about the principal loan balance, so the loan balance times the interest rate will give us the annual interest. Well, in this question, they want to know what is the outstanding mortgage balance. They want to know this number right here. So the T-bar says that that's going to be the annual interest divided by the interest rate. Okay? Well, they didn't give us annual interest. They certainly did give us interest rate. 4% interest rate is going to come right down here. So we got that part. 4%. Good deal. They didn't give us the annual interest. They gave us what we needed. They told us it was $954 per month, right? So it includes, the monthly mortgage payment includes $954 in interest. So that's $954 per month times 12 months a year would give us the annual interest is $11,448. And that number is coming over here to the top of our formula, 11,448 divided by 4% interest. And that tells us that mortgage balance is $286,200. That is the outstanding balance. $286,200. So that's a matter of knowing that T-bar formula for mortgage interest and then just being able to work backwards using the T-bar. Okay, number 38, what is the payoff balance of a mortgage loan as of October 17th if the interest accrues in arrears? That just means in reverse, which most of them do. And the last mortgage payment was made on October 1. If the balance after that payment was $234,505 and the note is issued at 3.75% annual interest. Okay, so fairly straightforward here. The mortgage loan that we're dealing with, the balance is $234,505, and it's accumulating interest at 3.75% per year. So 234,505 times 3.75%. That is $8,793.94 per year. And if we divide that by 360, because we want to go down to daily, equals 2443. Now, when you're deciding whether to divide by 12 or divide by 360, ask yourself, do you need a certain number of months of interest or do you need a certain number of days of interest? And in this case, I need 17 days of interest because the closing is happening on October 17th. So I need a number of days, so that's why I'm multiplying or dividing by 360. So this is the daily rate in interest, so times 17 days. That's $415.31 in accrued interest. And that's just going to be added to the mortgage payoff itself. So we owe them $234,505 in principal, but we also owe them $415.31 in interest, and that equals total payoff $234,915.31. $234,915.31 is the total payoff as of that October 17th closing. All right, number 39. How much is the interim interest owed on a new 80% loan-to-value mortgage loan obtained toward the purchase of a $300,000 home that closes on September 12th if the note is issued at 6.25% interest? So they want to know how much is the interim interest. Interim interest. Interim interest is interest in reverse, in advance. Buyers pay interim interest. So this is going to be the buyer paying this. That's not what the question asked, but it's good to remind myself because that reminds me it's in the future. And in the future, the buyer's going to own the property from September 12th through the end of that month. Because remember, whether we're talking about accrued interest or interim interest, they're both just a portion of the month when we close. If we're talking about the seller, the accrued interest is from the beginning of the month until the day of closing. If we're talking about interim interest, then it's from the day of closing until the end of the month. Now, when we do that, we figure out how many days that is. This is not 18 days. This is not 18 days. This is 19 days. Whether you want to count on your fingers or how you want to do it, you got to come up with 19 days because you have to count this day of the 12th. Okay, so it's 19 days of interest. So the balance, or at least the loan amount, is a $300,000 home times 80% loan to value That's $240,000 for our loan amount, and that's going to be at 6.25% interest annually. That is $15,000 per year in interest, annual interest. And because we need a certain number of days, we need 19 days, we're going to divide that by 360. So 15,000 annually divided by 360 equals $41.67 per day. And we're going to bring that up here and multiply times our number of days. So 41.67 a day times 19 days. And again, if you're a few pennies off one way or the other, it's about $791.73. Thereabout. $791.70, $791.80. Anywhere in there is just fine. Doesn't have to be exact. So $791.73. Circle that for you. There we go. Okay. And then I believe this is the last one. Yeah, it is. Finally, number 40. What is the total charge for discount points on the closing where the buyer is obtaining a $275,000 mortgage loan and buying the rate down from 5.25 to 5%? So, when we're talking about what is the total charge for discount points? Well, the total charge for discount points is always the number of points times 1% of the loan amount. So we need to know how many points, and we need to know how much the loan is. We already know that the loan is $275,000. So if we want to multiply that times 1% of the loan, that's going to be $2,750 per point, per discount point, because each one costs 1%. So for each point we're buying, we're purchasing something that's $2,750. Now we need to know how many points. Well, here's what we do know about that note. We know that it should have been at 5.25% interest if the borrower hadn't done anything, but the borrower bought it down to 5% interest. Now, when you type in the calculator, don't type these percent signs on this. You just want 5.25 minus 5. And that's a change of 0.25%. 0.25% overall. And we know that 0.25 can be divided by 0.125 to find out how many points, because each point changes the rate by 0.125. So that is 2 points that we need to purchase. And we already know each point is $2,750. So that's 2,000, why is it doing that? That is $2,750 times 2 points, which is $5,500. And that's a pretty good look at the various types of math that you might see from this chapter on the final exam or on the state license exam. So if you're good there, you should be good to go.